There's a truth about aging that most people never hear clearly enough, and it quietly determines whether a person spends their later years in strength or in decline, in independence or independence, in confidence or in fear. And that truth is this: your body does not respond to occasional effort, it responds to consistent signals repeated over time. Every cell in the human body is constantly listening, constantly adapting, constantly deciding whether to grow stronger or to conserve energy. And what determines that decision is not age alone, but daily behavior. Scientific research in exercise physiology has repeatedly shown that muscle tissue is one of the most adaptable tissues in the human body, even in older adults, but it only adapts when it receives repeated stimulation through movement and nutrition. When that stimulation disappears, the body begins a slow but measurable process of reduction in muscle fibers, a process known as sarcopenia, which affects strength, balance, and independence. But what is most shocking is not that this process exists, but how quickly it responds in both directions: decline when inactivity dominates, and improvement when consistent habits return. Studies published in leading geriatric medicine journals show that older adults who engage in even light resistance training just 2 to 3 times per week can significantly improve muscle strength within as little as 8 to 12 weeks. That means the human body does not require perfection, it requires repetition. Not intensity once in a while, but moderate effort repeated often enough to become a biological signal. And this is where most people unknowingly fail. They believe health is built through occasional motivation, a burst of effort, a short-lived diet, a temporary exercise phase, but the body does not recognize intention. It only responds to patterns. If the pattern is inactivity, it adapts to weakness. If the pattern is movement, it adapts to strength. If the pattern is poor nutrition, it adapts to deficiency. If the pattern is nourishment, it adapts to repair. This is not philosophy, this is cellular biology. Muscle protein synthesis, the process responsible for building and repairing muscle tissue, is activated by resistance and adequate amino acid intake, but it remains elevated only for a limited time after each stimulus. This is why researchers emphasize frequency and consistency rather than occasional intensity. The body needs repeated reminders that strength is still required, and every reminder builds upon the last. A single walk will not transform muscle mass, but a daily walk begins to reshape metabolism. A single healthy meal will not reverse muscle loss, but repeated nutrient-rich meals begin to shift protein balance in the body. A single workout will not rebuild balance, but consistent movement retrains the nervous system to coordinate muscles more effectively. Even the brain is involved in this process, constantly rewiring neural pathways based on repeated physical activity. Neuroscience studies show that balance, coordination, and reaction time all improve with repetition because the brain strengthens the communication between neurons and muscles through a process called neuroplasticity. This means that strength is not only physical, it is neurological, and neurological adaptation thrives on repetition. One of the most dangerous misconceptions in aging is the belief that slowing down is inevitable. But research in longevity science shows that lifestyle patterns have a far greater impact on physical function than chronological age alone. In fact, 2 individuals of the same age can have dramatically different levels of strength, energy, and mobility depending entirely on their daily habits. One may struggle to climb stairs while another may hike for miles, and the difference is not luck, but consistency. The human body is remarkably responsive to regular, moderate stress. Muscles grow when they are challenged, bones strengthen when they are loaded, and metabolism improves when it is activated repeatedly. Without that challenge, the body enters conservation mode, reducing energy expenditure and gradually shrinking muscle tissue to conserve resources. But when movement becomes a daily habit, Even in small amounts, the body shifts into a state of maintenance and repair. This is why experts often say that the worst thing for aging is not activity, but prolonged inactivity. And inactivity does not always look like complete rest. It often looks like sitting longer than moving, choosing convenience over effort, or delaying action until motivation returns. But motivation is unreliable. Consistency is what changes biology. Even simple habits repeated daily can produce measurable outcomes over time. A 10-minute walk after meals improves glucose regulation. Light resistance exercises using body weight improve muscle retention. Regular hydration supports joint function and muscle elasticity. Nutrient-dense foods support recovery and reduce inflammation. When these habits are combined, they create a compounding effect inside the body. Each action reinforces the next, and over time, the system becomes more efficient, more stable, and more resilient. This compounding effect is one of the most powerful principles in human health, yet it is often underestimated because its results are gradual rather than immediate. But biology does not rush. It builds, and what it builds depends on what it receives consistently. This is where simple nutritional habits become transformative. Foods rich in protein, minerals, and healthy fats provide the raw materials for repair, but only when consumed regularly. Even small daily additions, repeated without interruption, can shift the body's internal environment toward healing rather than breakdown. The same principle applies to movement. The body does not require extreme workouts to respond. It requires repeated activation. Aging does not remove the ability to adapt. It only increases the need for consistency. And perhaps the most encouraging discovery in modern aging research is that older adults retain significant capacity to improve strength even after decades of decline, as long as they begin and continue consistent habits. This means that no matter how long someone has been inactive, the body is still capable of responding, still capable of rebuilding, still capable of improving, but only if the signal is repeated often enough to be recognized. One of the leading voices in simplifying this message in health education is Dr. Alan Mandell, who often emphasizes that health transformation is not about complexity, but about daily discipline in the simplest forms: movement, hydration, nourishment, and mindset. Because when these elements are repeated consistently, they create a physiological environment where healing becomes the default state rather than the exception. And over time, that environment begins to show visible results: stronger legs, improved posture, steadier balance, and renewed energy. But the transformation is not only physical, it is emotional, because strength restores confidence, and confidence restores independence, and independence restores dignity, and dignity changes the way a person experiences aging entirely. So the real question is not whether the body can change, because science has already answered that. The real question is whether the signals will be consistent enough for change to occur. Because the body is always listening. Every step, every meal, every choice is a message. And over time, those messages become your health. Hello everyone, Dr. Alan Mandell. Here, welcome back to my channel, Science of Healing. Let me share something that could change the way you look at aging and muscle loss after 60. Because here's the truth most people never hear. You are not getting weaker just because you're getting older. You're getting weaker because your body is not getting the right signals, the right nutrients, and the right fuel to maintain muscle. And one of the most overlooked fuels on the planet is a tiny, inexpensive seed sitting quietly on grocery store shelves. Today, we're talking about chia seeds, a simple food that can help protect your muscles, improve strength, and support recovery as you age. Now, you may have heard dramatic claims like, "This seed has 300 times more protein than chicken." Let's clear that up right away. There is a silent process happening inside millions of bodies right now, and most people don't even know it has a name. It begins slowly, almost invisibly, sometime after the age of 50. And by the time you reach your 60s, it can steal strength, balance, and independence without warning. Doctors call this condition sarcopenia, and research shows that adults can lose up to 3 to 8% of their muscle mass every single decade after age 30, with the rate accelerating dramatically after 60. That means by the time many people reach their 70s, they may have lost nearly 1/3 of the muscle they once relied on to walk, lift, climb stairs, and protect their joints. And here is the frightening truth. Muscle loss is not just about looking thinner or feeling weaker. It is directly linked to falls, fractures, hospitalizations, and loss of independence. In fact, studies published in the Journal of the American Medical Directors Association show that older adults with low muscle mass have a significantly higher risk of disability and early death compared to those who maintain strength. But here is the part that changes everything. Muscle loss after 60 is not a life sentence. It is a warning signal, and the human body, even in later decades, still has an extraordinary ability to rebuild itself. Scientists have documented people in their 80s and even their 90s gaining muscle strength when they provide their bodies with the right stimulus. One landmark study from Tufts University placed nursing home residents with an average age of 87 on a simple strength training program, and within just 8 weeks, their muscle strength increased by over 100%. Think about that for a moment. These were not athletes. These were frail seniors, many using walkers or wheelchairs, yet their muscles responded like engines waiting to be restarted. Because muscle tissue is alive, adaptable, and constantly listening to the signals you send it. When you move, it grows stronger. When you sit too long, it begins to shrink. This is not opinion. This is biology. And the consequences of ignoring that biology can be devastating. Every year, millions of adults over 60 experience falls, and according to global health data, falls are one of the leading causes of injury-related deaths in older adults. But here is what most people never hear. Stronger muscles dramatically reduce the risk of falling. They stabilize joints, they improve balance, they protect bones, they give you the power to catch yourself before disaster strikes. And muscle does something even more remarkable. It acts like a metabolic shield inside your body. Healthy muscle helps regulate blood sugar, support the immune system, and burn calories even when you are resting. When muscle mass declines, the risk of chronic diseases rises. Conditions like type 2, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity become more common because the body loses its ability to manage energy efficiently. Researchers have found that people with higher muscle mass have better insulin sensitivity, meaning their bodies can control blood sugar more effectively. That is why maintaining muscle is not just about strength, it is about survival. It is about protecting your organs, your mobility, and your future. And yet, many people believe the biggest myth of aging, that weakness is inevitable. They think slowing down is simply part of getting older. They assume fatigue is normal. They accept stiffness as unavoidable. But the science tells a very different story. The real problem is not age itself. The real problem is inactivity and poor nutrition. Muscles need two things to stay alive: movement and fuel. Without them, they begin to disappear, fiber by fiber, day by day. But when those two elements return, the body begins to rebuild. Even after decades of decline, muscle cells can grow larger and stronger. Studies using advanced imaging have shown that resistance training can increase muscle size in older adults within just a few weeks. That means your body still remembers how to be strong. It has not forgotten. It has only been waiting for the signal. And that signal does not have to be extreme. You do not need a gym membership. You do not need heavy weights. You do not need hours of exercise. Simple movements, standing from a chair, walking briskly, climbing stairs, lifting light objects, can activate muscle fibers and send powerful messages to your brain and body. Each step you take tells your muscles, stay. Each repetition tells your bones, grow stronger. Each day of consistent movement tells your body, I am not done yet. Nutrition plays an equally critical role in this transformation. After the age of 60, the body becomes less efficient at using protein, a phenomenon scientists call anabolic resistance. This means older adults often need more high-quality protein to stimulate muscle growth compared to younger people. Without enough protein, the body begins to break down its own muscle tissue to meet its needs. That is why experts recommend spreading protein intake throughout the day rather than consuming it all at once. It keeps the muscle building process active from morning to night. Hydration also matters more than most people realize. Muscle tissue is made up of nearly 75% water, and even mild dehydration can reduce strength, endurance, and coordination. Something as simple as drinking enough water can improve physical performance and reduce fatigue. Sleep is another powerful factor. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone, which helps repair and rebuild muscle fibers damaged during daily activity. When sleep is poor, recovery slows and muscle loss accelerates. This is why consistent sleep patterns are essential for maintaining strength as you age. Now imagine the opposite scenario. Imagine waking up with steady energy. Imagine walking without fear of falling. Imagine carrying groceries, climbing stairs, and playing with grandchildren without exhaustion. This is not fantasy. It is the natural result of preserving muscle health. And the most inspiring part is that progress can begin at any moment. The first walk, the first stretch, the first balanced meal. These small actions trigger a chain reaction inside the body. Blood flow increases, nerves activate, muscle fibers awaken, confidence returns, independence grows, and life begins to feel larger again. Because strength is more than physical power. It is freedom, it is dignity, it is the ability to live on your own terms. So the next time you feel weakness creeping in, remember this truth supported by decades of research. Your muscles are not gone. They are waiting for movement, waiting for nourishment, waiting for you to give them a reason to stay strong. There is a tiny seed sitting quietly in kitchens around the world, overlooked, inexpensive, and almost invisible. Yet inside that small shell is a nutritional force powerful enough to support muscles, protect bones, and stabilize energy in ways most people never imagine. This seed is called the chia seed, and scientists have studied it for decades because of its unusually dense concentration of nutrients packed into such a small volume of food. Just 2 tablespoons, barely a mouthful, contain protein, fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, magnesium, iron, and antioxidants working together like a team of microscopic defenders inside the body. And that combination becomes especially important after the age of 60, when the body begins to lose muscle, bone density, and metabolic efficiency at a faster pace than ever before. Many people believe that weakness in later life is simply a result of aging, but research shows the real cause is often nutritional deficiency and chronic inflammation slowly damaging tissues from the inside. Inflammation is now recognized as a hidden driver behind some of the most common age-related conditions, including joint pain, fatigue, heart disease, and muscle breakdown. In fact, chronic low-grade inflammation has been linked to the progression of sarcopenia, the condition responsible for the steady loss of muscle strength that affects millions of older adults worldwide. But here is where chia seeds become remarkably powerful. They are one of the richest plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids, particularly alpha-linolenic acid, a nutrient known to help reduce inflammation and support muscle recovery. Studies published in nutritional science journals show that omega-3 fats can improve muscle protein synthesis, meaning the body becomes more efficient at repairing and rebuilding muscle tissue after physical activity. That is critical because aging muscles recover more slowly, and without proper recovery, strength gradually fades. When inflammation is reduced, muscles can heal faster, joints move more smoothly, and daily activities become easier to perform. But the benefits do not stop there. Chia seeds are also an impressive source of plant-based protein containing all 9 essential amino acids required for muscle repair and growth. These amino acids act like building blocks, repairing tiny tears and muscle fibers that occur during movement, exercise, or even routine daily tasks. Without enough amino acids, those fibers cannot rebuild and muscle mass slowly disappears. With consistent intake, however, the body gains the materials it needs to maintain strength and endurance. This is particularly important after age 60 because the body develops what scientists call anabolic resistance, a reduced ability to use protein efficiently. That means older adults must be more intentional about consuming nutrient-dense foods that deliver both protein and supportive minerals. And minerals are another area where chia seeds shine. They contain significant amounts of magnesium, a mineral involved in more than 300 biochemical reactions inside the human body. Magnesium supports muscle contraction, nerve communication, and energy production at the cellular level. Low magnesium levels have been associated with muscle cramps, weakness, fatigue, and irregular heartbeat, symptoms that many older adults experience without realizing the nutritional cause. By replenishing magnesium stores, the body can restore smoother muscle function and more stable energy levels. Calcium is another essential nutrient found in abundance within these seeds. Most people associate calcium only with bones, but calcium is also required for every muscle contraction in the body. Each time you stand up, take a step, or lift an object, calcium ions trigger the muscle fibers to contract and generate force. Without adequate calcium, muscles cannot perform efficiently, and bones become fragile and prone to fracture. This connection between muscle and bone health is critical because weak muscles increase the risk of falls, and fragile bones increase the risk of serious injury when those falls occur. Medical research consistently shows that improving muscle strength and bone density together is one of the most effective strategies for maintaining independence in older age. Chia seeds also contain a remarkable amount of dietary fiber, nearly 10 grams in just 2 tablespoons, which plays a powerful role in regulating digestion and stabilizing blood sugar levels. Stable blood sugar is not just a concern for people with diabetes. It affects energy, mood, and physical performance in everyone. When blood sugar rises rapidly and then crashes, the body experiences fatigue, dizziness, and sudden hunger, making it harder to stay active and maintain muscle mass. Over time, repeated spikes in blood sugar can lead to insulin resistance and increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, a condition strongly associated with muscle loss and reduced mobility. Fiber slows the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream, creating a steady flow of energy that keeps muscles fueled throughout the day. That steady energy can make the difference between staying active and becoming sedentary, and activity is the key signal that tells muscles to remain strong. Another extraordinary feature of chia seeds is their ability to absorb water and form a gel-like texture inside the digestive system. This property helps maintain hydration, which is essential for muscle performance because muscle tissue is composed largely of water. Even mild dehydration can reduce strength, endurance, and coordination, increasing the risk of falls and injuries. Proper hydration keeps joints lubricated, supports circulation, and allows nutrients to reach muscle cells more efficiently. Antioxidants present in chia seeds add another layer of protection by neutralizing harmful molecules known as free radicals. These molecules accumulate naturally with age and can damage cells, accelerate inflammation, and contribute to chronic disease. By reducing oxidative stress, antioxidants help preserve muscle tissue, protect the heart, and support overall longevity. Scientists often describe this protective effect as slowing the biological processes associated with aging, giving the body more resilience and stability over time. Perhaps the most encouraging fact of all is that these benefits do not require large quantities or expensive supplements. Just 1 or 2 tablespoons per day can deliver measurable nutritional support for muscles, bones, and metabolism. This makes chia seeds one of the most accessible health tools available to people on any budget. They require no cooking, no complicated preparation, and no special equipment. They can be mixed into oatmeal, yogurt, smoothies, soups, or even a simple glass of water. Consistency is what transforms this small habit into a powerful, long-term advantage. Day after day, nutrient after nutrient, the body receives steady support, allowing tissues to repair, rebuild, and remain functional. Over weeks and months, strength becomes more noticeable, balance improves, and energy levels stabilize. Over years, the cumulative effect can mean the difference between dependence and independence, between frailty and resilience, between merely surviving and truly living. Because inside that tiny seed is more than nutrition. It is a reminder that health does not always come from dramatic changes or expensive solutions. Sometimes it begins with the smallest choice repeated every single day.